A conventional forklift is designed to lift and carry a load in front of the wheels. The load remains in this position during transit. A conventional forklift is able to lift the load in this position because it has a large rear-mounted counterweight to counterbalance the load. A conventional forklift is also known as a counterbalance forklift. It helps to think of any forklift as a kind of seesaw. The front wheels, in this case, are the point of pivot known as the fulcrum point, the center point of the seesaw. If the load exceeds the rated lift capacity of the forklift, the weight of the load will overcome the counterbalance effect and cause the load and the forklift to tip forward. This is why you should never attempt to carry a load that exceeds the rated capacity of the forklift. The Moffett truck-mounted forklift is quite different from a counterbalance forklift. It is light enough to be transported on the rear of a truck or trailer and, unlike a conventional forklift, does not have a rear-mounted counterweight. Instead, the Moffett has a horizontally moving mast. This has the effect of altering the balance and lift capacity of the machine depending on the position of the mast. Traveling without a load, the Moffett is most stable with the mast fully extended forward and the forks as low as possible to the ground. With the mast fully forward, however, the capacity for lifting will be greatly reduced. To overcome this reduction in lifting capacity, the Moffett is equipped with hydraulic stabilizers. With the stabilizers raised, the fulcrum point is the front wheels. But when the stabilizers are lowered, the fulcrum point moves forward to the point of contact between the stabilizers and the ground. This increases the counterbalance effect and enables the Moffett to lift its rated capacity without the need for a large counterweight. The stabilizers must be lowered before any load is lifted and only raised after the mast has been fully retracted. Always keep the load as low as possible when traveling. Nearly all forklifts are supported at 3 points, which form a stability triangle. This is even true for four-wheeled forklifts because the rear steering axle is attached by a pivot point at its center. This yellow triangle represents the stability triangle of a Moffett with its stabilizers raised. The triangle joins the centers of the 3 wheels. With the stabilizers lowered, there is a new stability triangle, which joins the stabilizers to the center of the rear wheel. The center of gravity is the point at which an object's weight is concentrated. This is the object's balance point. Both a Moffett and the load that it is lifting will have individual centers of gravity. When the Moffett lifts a load, these centers of gravity will combine and form a combined center of gravity. As long as the combined center of gravity of the Moffett and load stays within the stability triangle, the forklift is stable and will not tip over. If the combined center of gravity moves outside this triangle in any direction, then the Moffett will tip over in that direction. 3 factors affect the movement of the center of gravity: the position of the mast and load, the weight of the load, and the lie of the land. When the mast moves the load forward, the combined center of gravity will also move forward. The heavier the load, the faster the combined center of gravity will move forward. If the load is heavier than the Moffett's rated capacity, even with the stabilizers down, the combined center of gravity will move outside of the stability triangle and the machine will tip forward. Move the same load back into the frame of the Moffett and the center of gravity moves back inside of the stability triangle. This shows how important it is to be aware of the rated capacity of your particular machine and how important it is to lower and retract a load as soon as you possibly can. With the load back and low, the Moffett will remain quite stable even when on the move. Remember that the stability triangle changes when the stabilizers are raised. The third factor affecting the center of gravity, the lie of the land or slope, requires us to see the stability triangle in 3 dimensions. This is because the pull of gravity comes straight from the center of the Earth, regardless of the slope or incline that you may be traveling on. This is why the center of gravity will move as the machine travels up, down, or across a slope. If you need to travel down a hill, never go with the load pointing downhill. You can see that, even with the load back and low, much of the weight lies outside of the stability triangle. There is a risk that the center of gravity will now move outside of the stability triangle and that the machine will tip forward. Always reverse straight down a hill when carrying a load, and never travel with the load high, even with the load retracted. If you move up and across a slope with a load carried high, you can see that almost all of the combined weight of the load and Moffett are now outside of the stability triangle. With the combined center of gravity well outside of the stability triangle, the machine and load will tip over backwards. Always travel straight up a hill and do not travel left or right while ascending. Never travel with a load raised and never travel across an incline. Remember, the safest place to be is always in the driver's seat of your Moffett with your seatbelt on, which provides the protection of the overhead guard. In the event of a tip over, stay safely seatbelted inside the operator compartment with the side guard closed. Lean away from the direction the Moffett is tipping. Brace yourself by gripping the steering wheel tightly.